40 years ago, when I joined the Navy, there wasn't a whole lot of, and I'll use the term respect for the military.
Yes, sir.
People coming out of Vietnam were ostracized. What has changed in this country where now there's just so much outpouring of love for people who are serving in the Middle East?
Well, I think honestly what it comes down to is the service members themselves. Those veterans, the men and women, the family members that came back from Vietnam and other wars that had to deal with that, had to go through that, they've spoken up. They've essentially over time have educated America and educated them on how to separate, their political views from the actual individual that makes the sacrifice for this country when the country needs individuals to make that sacrifice. And I think that's the biggest thing. And so when you talk about some of the gaps that existed, the biggest one being the support for our service members, that gap for the most part has been closed because of those individuals in past wars that have spoken up. Now it's important for us as current service members to continue to speak up to the gaps that exist over time to be able to close those gaps for the next generation, for the next wave of service members that are going to be, coming through our military.
And does the average man and woman need to come down hard on their Congress people and say, hey, free up some more money for the Veterans Administration?
Absolutely. I think, we've been there. We've done that. We know what we're going through. I mean, we can speak to that. And I think that, what we do see, I have a great friend of mine who runs a nonprofit, actually the founder, executive director of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. And he has hundreds of thousands of members from around the country that have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he teaches them, and essentially they go to D.C. one time a year, and they call this movement Storm the Hill. And they go and they meet with congressmen and senators, and then they encourage them, they teach these service members how to go back to their respective communities and meet with the mayor, or meet with the governor, or meet with whoever it is in their community, in their state. So I think we do need to have more service members. I mean, don't leave it up just to me, in my platform that I have, it's important for all of us to do this together. I was taught a strategic, method when I was in the Army, when I was in the infantry, is how this term called flanking. And essentially what that means is the line of individuals, stretching all the way out, as many guys as you have. And essentially you just flank the enemy. The enemy sees you coming straight on, but they don't realize there's more guys coming from the side. And eventually you beat the enemy, defuse it. And I think that's what we need. We need more guys that are stretching out, that are going to step up and create this line that whatever the enemy may be, whether it's suicide, which is a big issue, whether it's the VA backlog that exists, which is a very big issue, all the other issues, unemployment, we need to have more guys out there, men and women and family members speaking up, and essentially over time, we defeat the enemy and we close this gap.
Third and final question for me. Recruit training or rehearsing for a reality show?
Absolutely 100%. Now, Karina's not going to be happy about this. She's been trying to get me to say this for 2.5 years since I was on the show, but definitely basic training because, at least with Karina, she was prettier than my drill sergeant. So even if she was tough on me, she was prettier. So it made it a little bit easier. When you have a drill sergeant that is in your face and he's spitting in your face and he's giving you orders or chewing you out for whatever thing you did that was completely wrong, he's not the breath, the look, it just doesn't work. The beard.